It isn't every day that the Lyon Museum receives a hoard like this one. This box contains traces of human life dating back 1700 years. Archaeologists recently found this amphora full of Roman coins on the rock of the expressway near Villette-d'Anton. François Planet and Roger L'Auxerrois are members of the team in charge of the study.
At first glance, we're looking at a treasure from the late 3rd century AD. That's pretty extraordinary. The effigies are very clear, and the texts too. We'll be able to decipher everything. And look over there, a number of stacks apparently. You have the impression that these coins were placed in stacks in the amphora. Let's see if we can pry a coin loose. Maybe that one there. Yeah, right.
L'étude d'un trésor peut permettre des choses.
Many things can be learned by studying a treasure. You can try to link the burial context of the coinage to its historical context. That's the usual thing.
C'est le point habituel. Mais on peut
you could also find out more information about the history of the coinage itself, the phases of its production, the eras when it circulated, eras when it didn't, a whole series of monetary and economic facts.
Une série de considérations de faits monétaires et économiques.
There's still a great deal to be learned from Roman coinage. The pieces can usually be dated, but even greater accuracy is possible. The big unknowns are still the quantities produced, the rate of production, and above all, the use made of the coinage in everyday life. Despite the treasures and the written sources, we have very little information about these subjects, which are nonetheless crucial.
Au nom des dieux immortels, moi, Romulus, je me proclame roi de cette cité. Sur le sol, j'ai délimité son enceinte. Quiconque la traversera sera le bienvenu. Mais celui qui aura des armes devra mourir.
In the 5th century BC, Rome took up from the Etruscan tradition the habit of casting large monetary ingots of bronze. Each ingot weighed 1 to 2 kilos. The estimated weight of metal was routinely used in commerce. Sometime later, the Romans cast small amounts of large coins, but there still wasn't any monetary system. The weight of each coin was checked at the time of the transaction. Greece was on the march, and its coinage spread from the east. The expansion of trade and arts and crafts in the cities created the need for a simple, practical means of payment. Each city thus minted its own coinage. With the arrival of the Greek colonizers in southern Italy, the custom of using coins spread through the peninsula. At the beginning, the Greek settlers, like those in Paestum, used the coinage of their native city. Then, as their needs grew, they decided to issue their own coinage. In the 3rd century, these coins spread as far as Rome. The Romans went on to strike silver and bronze coins using Greek techniques and the traditional Greek standard. These early coins bore the name Roma. The name of the city spread through its coinage. Rome gradually expanded its power in Italy, but clashed with Carthage, which became its principal rival for the domination of the Western Mediterranean.
In pochi anni Annibale ha conquistato tutta la Spagna, non con la sola forza e con le armi, ma con sottile diplomazia. Un uomo di questa tempra non lascerà che le Alpi lo prendano in trappola.
Annibale, i nostri viveri stanno per finire. Gli uomini sono stanchi e intirizziti. Quanto ancora potremo resistere?
Avrei marciato col mio esercito per mezza Europa e sarei accampato su queste montagne? Se avessi un altro mezzo per impedire a Roma di invadere la nostra terra?
The Second Punic War pitted Hannibal against Rome. The two empires mobilized all their resources in this struggle. In antiquity, rarely was a war so long and so costly. Raising the troops and constructing a fleet forced Rome to create a new monetary system based on a new silver coin. The denarius was born. The denarius system became the coinage of the Republic. Its production was massive. The basic motive was the Dioscuri, an evocation of the twins Castor and Pollux, to whom the Romans paid special devotion. Bronze coins were struck with a ship's prow. They were called the as.
Et vous, les sénateurs, vous êtes le cœur de Rome. C'est par votre voix que le peuple s'exprime. Parlez pour que le monde vous entende. Cherchons à grandir de plus en plus et à nous étendre.
The state budget was controlled by the Senate. The letters SC betokened its authority. The silver reserves were stored near the temple of Saturn on the Forum. The mint must have resembled the goldsmith's workshops. Preparation of blanks, striking the metal and weighing the coins. The weighing operation was important because the value of the coin was still determined by its metal weight. The striking of the coinage was supervised by 3 magistrates appointed each year. The minter's officer was assumed by the rich Romans in the early stages of their political career. Their signature helps to date each coin. For example, we know that Lucius Papias was magistrate in 79 BC, so this coin was struck in Rome in that era. Each minter picked the model of coin he wanted to strike. Some minters associated their name with the power of gods like Jupiter or Pan. Others commemorated building projects to which their families contributed, like the aqueduct here. Or, very simply, they stamped the bust of their famous ancestors. In the 2nd and 1st century BC, Rome conquered the whole Mediterranean basin, Greece and Spain, present-day Turkey, and above all, Gaul and North Africa. Each conquest brought new treasures to Rome. They were minted and struck to augment the available monetary stock. While the stock of money coined in the first half of the 2nd century could be estimated at 200 tons, it grew steadily to reach 1,200 tons 100 years later. Roman generals amassed huge fortunes and arrogated the privilege of issue previously assumed by the Senate. The son of the great Pompey celebrated his naval victories by displaying a lighthouse on the back of his denarii. Caesar celebrated his African victories by depicting an elephant crushing a serpent, or symbols of his religious power. Caesar ultimately minted gold, a metal traditionally reserved for the gods. The currency became the symbol and means of power. Octavius was Caesar's heir and adopted son. He defeated the legions and the fleet of Mark Antony and Cleopatra at Actium. This victory gave him absolute power. He assumed the title of Augustus and put an end to political and monetary anarchy. This marked the beginning of the Roman Empire. The mint was placed at the service of imperial propaganda. Minters no longer had the right to stamp their names. The same texts are often found on coins and monuments. Nothing was spared to celebrate the emperor. In Rome, the mint was installed on the Capitoline Hill. The imperial monetary system was organized by Augustus. It remained in force for 250 years. The scale of value was valid throughout the empire. It was composed of 4 principal pieces: a gold aureus, a silver denarius, a brass cestus, and a copper as. Subdivisions also existed, worth half or a quarter of their basic piece. The second imperial mint was at Lyon, to strike the silver and gold of the Gauls. But the decisions were centralized and issued from Rome. All the mints had to strike the same types of currency. The Lyon Museum has a large quantity of coins produced in Lyon, the capital of the Gauls.
The coinage of Lyon varies according to the metal. While gold and silver coins are fairly similar to those found in Rome, bronze, on the contrary, displayed the representation of the famous altar of the 3 Gauls, built in 12 BC to celebrate Lyon, the capital of the 3 Gauls. At the time of Nero and thereafter in the era of Vespasian, the mark of the Lyon mint was a globe placed at the tip of the emperor's neck. As in most cases, the mint has never been found. Some experts believe that it was located under the hill of Fourvière, others on the slopes of Croix-Rousse, near the federal altar where the political bodies in charge of the capital of the 3 Gauls were located. All quality coins from antiquity and later eras were imitated if they were of excellent quality. The coinage of Lyon was one example. Here are 2 coins of the type of the altar of the 3 Gauls. The first is the prototype, an ass struck under the Emperor Tiberius. The second is a copy which imitates the first. Does this indicate a desire to speculate? Could it be tribes or clans trying to create a coinage with a familiar type? We just don't know.
Depeyrot is a researcher in numismatics. We accompanied him to Italy. Like the Colosseum, many Roman monuments were reproduced on the coinage.
Monuments on coins because this helped celebrate the wealth, construction and town planning of Rome. Also a way to publicize all the structures that the emperor built because each new structure appeared on the coins. It also helped to show that there were strong urbanistic symbols through the Roman Empire with which each citizen could identify. In this way, even if all the inhabitants of the empire did not go to the Colosseum, they derived an impression of the city of Rome. In other words, the coinage served in many respects as a vector of propaganda. Many Roman structures have not reached us intact, like the Circus Maximus, while others have completely disappeared. This is why in studying the architectural evolution of Rome, monetary representations are often used. This also applies to the Roman bridges on the Tiber, which have virtually disappeared today. Coins were a vector of images like the postcards of our own recent past. They circulated and provided models for the architects who built similar buildings in the provinces.
Coins constitute a genuine official gazette of the empire. Of the effigy serves to track the physical changes of the emperor, like Nero here, getting fat. Here's Septimus Severus. We can reconstruct his dynasty with his wife Julia Domna and his two sons, Caracalla and Geta. It was Caracalla who succeeded him. Here's Hadrian. You can track his visit to the provinces of the empire. First to Rhaetia, where he reviewed his troops. And on to Africa, the granary of the empire, where he offered a sacrifice to the gods. He finally returned to Rome in a galley and threw money to the populace.
The date of issue of a coin can be identified from the peripheral text which lists the emperor's titles. Imp, Imperator, Emperor. Traiano, his name, Trajan. Aug, he's Augustus, the traditional appellation of the emperors. Ger, he received a title for his victories over the Germans. Dac, and then over the Dacians. PM, Pontifex Maximus, in other words, head of the Roman religion. TRP, he received tribunician power, which represents civil power. Cos 5, he was 5 times consul. PP, Pater Patriae, he received the title of Father of the Country. Hence this coin was issued after Trajan had acquired all these titles, in other words, between 103 and 111 AD.
In the streets, in the marketplaces, the population was sensitive to the effigies stamped on the coinage. It is said that a man who was offered a coin of Nero preferred a coin of Trajan, even though the Nero coin was more valuable. Thus the people cast a judgment on the political message. Nero was a bloodthirsty dictator, whereas Trajan was a popular builder. It was he who built this large market, which had more than 100 shops.
Here we're in Trajan's market, built in the early 2nd century AD. This market was intended to organize the distribution of certain goods. With Trajan, we're smack in the middle of the great period of the Roman Empire, when the monetary stock was the most diversified, and hence at this time, and only at this time, markets were built, the architectural materialization of a monetary economy. For the market to fully perform its function, the monetary stock had to be extremely homogeneous. Trajan strove to make it homogeneous, first by remelting all the money to prevent the circulation of older coins which had become lighter through wear. He also put into monetary circulation the stock of gold and silver that he took from the Dacians during his conquests. So starting with Trajan, the monetary stock was composed of all new coins of the same style, the same extremely uniform weight, and the century to come was a time of economic plenty for the empire.
Commerce flourished, and trade between the provinces intensified. Itineraries, like the one painted here on a Roman wall, helped travelers find their way in the gigantic empire. Boundary markers, which staked out the Roman roads, served to estimate all the distances in the same units, the mile. The same can be said of the currency. While certain regions continued to strike their local coinage, you could go anywhere with a denarius. It was the basic unit used to compare values and to pay expenses throughout the empire. It was the first great universal coin of the West. The eruption of Vesuvius froze the inhabitants of Herculaneum and Pompeii in their everyday activities. Coins were everywhere, in the shops fringing the streets, near the mills and the baker's oven, in the boutique of a rich wine merchant, and especially at the bankers. The abundance of the coinage created the need for money changers. Jucundus was one of them. His home, located in the elegant neighborhood of Pompeii, was richly decorated.
Jucundus was one of the rich bankers of Pompeii. Like his colleagues, he made loans and also changed money and checked the quality of monetary species. The banker weighed and checked the metal of the coins to identify fakes. He exchanged old coins and coins still struck in the East. He could also supply small change. He sealed the bags of good money with labels in his name. There was no state bank. Jucundus was a private banker. He had a private fortune, and he got richer by putting his money to work. All the wooden tablets on which Jucundus recorded his loans have been found. Each shows his name, the name of the borrower, the date, and the amount loaned. The tablets reveal the economic role of the merchant bankers. The loans, generally associated with auction sales, represented several hundred gold coins. In a tavern like this one, the population of Herculaneum could buy the wine and food they needed daily with pieces of bronze or silver. Wine was cheap here. Different qualities were available at perfectly affordable prices. You could have a pitcher for an as, or 2 as, and a sesterce bought a wine of excellent quality. They could also spend their money elsewhere, at the brothel, for example. Roughly speaking, you can say that the currency was introduced in society through state distributions to the soldiery and the civil servants. There were imperial gifts, which helped issue large quantities of money to the population. There was a group of employees, naturally, and especially a group of tradesmen. And through this medium of salaries, trade, of buying and selling, the currency spread through all the levels of society. Differences in wealth were considerable. There are wealthy homes like that of the Veti, great residences like the ones of Jucundus, but at the same time we have a servile population of slaves, domestic employees, whose homes we find here at the opposite end of the social ladder. So everyone had money in his pocket, small bronze coins which could buy bread and drink, and gold coins for bigger trade and for large transactions.
The monetary system organized by Augustus did not survive the great crisis of the 3rd century. A new coin was struck after the civil wars, the Antoninian. The Antoninian was worth 2 denarii, but only weighed 1.5. The population wasn't fooled and began to hoard good silver coins, in other words, the oldest. From then on, inflation corrupted the entire monetary system. The climatic cooling of the 3rd century drove the population of northern and central Europe to seek shelter in the Roman Empire. Barbarian raids were launched on the main cities. To organize their defense, the Romans enlisted new legions, built fortifications, and launched counter-offensives. They financed all these expenditures by taxes and by striking new coinage. The graver the situation, the more the mints produced. Compared with the monetary calm of the 220s, production grew fourfold, starting in 240 at the beginning of the invasions, and never stopped growing. At the peak of the struggle against the invaders, in around 270, it had grown by a factor of 60. During this period, the pieces produced were lighter and contained less and less precious metal. 30 years separate these 2 Antoninians. The first contained 47% silver and the second only 3%, a huge loss of value. Faced with this situation, the wealthy hoarded their coins in the hope that things would get better. Most of the monetary treasures discovered date from this period. The treasure of Villette-d'Anthon is starting to unveil its secrets. The 9,310 pieces have all been sorted. Statistical analysis will help accurately quantify the monetary production of the late 3rd century in the Lyon Mint.
So this is the famous bunch of coins you told me about. The batch of 606 coins issued from the same pair of dies. And the date? Which therefore date from the 12th Lyon issue. These coins were struck in the first half of 294. So this represents about an hour's work for an engraver and a minter of the Lyon Mint. These coins were all struck directly in the mint or in an associated body. They were produced in a very short period of time and are linked by die connections to the other coins making up the treasure.
When you examine a treasure and try to find coins stamped by the same dies, all you need do is superimpose the images of the coins to see whether all the details of the effigy are identical. If the superposition is perfect, it means a die link. The number of dies helps to evaluate the number of pieces produced by the mint. Judging from the treasure of Villette-d'Anthon, the production of Lyon in the year 294 can be estimated at 10 million coins.
Astronomical quantities of coins were produced, and this is certainly why so many coins have been found. Throughout this period of late antiquity, we're dealing with what amounts to an industrial production system, even if it isn't actually mechanical production. It's a system for producing very large quantities of currency. And what's interesting is that it can only be studied if there's a very large treasure, the proximity of a mint, and circumstances allowing the preservation of the entire treasure. We'll gain a better understanding of how the economy is monetarized and learn more about the extent of the issues and find out how the Roman budget functioned thanks to studies and treasures of this type.